We're talking about Darren that we met earlier today, and the fact that he was willing to reach out. He hit me up at, just from an ad that I was running on Instagram, and he'd reached out to other people before and they hadn't hit him back. That says a lot about him, and I think that's the thing people have to do. They have to get outside themselves, outside their comfort zone, and just reach out. So it's appointment number 1. We're at a closing with one of my team members, Sandy. I introduced her to these clients. She immediately picked up the ball, sold them a house right away. Perfect house for them. They're super excited. So we're gonna pop into the closing, just say a quick hello, congratulations, and then we'll be off to closing number 2. It's not always me. Sometimes we immediately get the team involved and they just take care of it. So you're always gonna see Sandy. She's amazing and I trust her implicitly. Team, right?
Teamwork.
All right. This person that inquired about the Bosswood house last night.
Hello.
Hey, this is Martin Lovelace with Compass Real Estate. How you doing? Hey, I was just following up. We were texting a little bit yesterday. You had inquired about that house on Bosswood and said you might be looking for something else, a little bit lower price point. I just wanted to touch base with you by phone and see how we can help. What about timeline? Are you ready to look at some things in the next couple days? Sure. I have a couple things in mind that might be at least worth taking a look at. Do you mind to shoot me your email address and I'll send you over the list?
Yes, I will go ahead and text my email right now.
Okay, sounds good. I'll be in touch. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
All right, bye-bye. So you never know, right? People call on properties every single day. And a lot of times they're not interested or it's a neighbor or whatever. That guy, he hit the text writer for property in West Meade, 1.7, and he texted me and said, this is a little bit out of my price range. And I just said, hey, we work all price points. I'm happy to help you. Would you like to connect by phone? And he said, yeah, that would be great. I'll call you, but he didn't call. So that's why I called him today. Sometimes you have to be more proactive because people get busy or they're not in a big hurry. Now it's about providing value. So I'm gonna pull some properties today as soon as I get 30 seconds to sit down, and I will shoot that over to him and we'll see where it goes. You never know who's on the other end of the call. The other person could be engaged, could be ready to go. They may just be a tire kicker. It doesn't matter. We want to reach out, we want to follow up because that's how you do deals. You can't just expect people to ring you up and go, hey, I found this house and I want you to write a contract on it. You have to pursue, but do it in a gentle fashion so that people know, hey, this is not high pressure sales, but at the same time, we want to build a relationship and be available to them. And you prove your value quickly by doing what you say you're going to do. Okay. Closing number 2 and 3. Let's run in there. They're probably already underway. I think Jason is with them, so all good. So we just wrapped up those closings. One of my clients was selling and buying simultaneously. Took good care of them. So this is lunch today. I usually don't have a big lunch or anything. Funny thing about this location right here, a lot of times people come in there and they see Keith Urban and Nicole Kidman in there. I pulled up here one day with some clients and they're like, hey, let's get some coffee. And I said, okay. I said, this is the one where sometimes you see people. And sure as the world, we went in, got in line. Keith and Nicole were sitting over there, like in this one spot where they would sit. And so my clients are like, trying to get video and photos of like themselves, like trying to do selfies with them in the background. That's what people like about Nashville though, is there's people around, but nobody bothers them. So you come to the Green Hills location, you see Keith and Nicole, just leave them alone. They're just in there to have some coffee, but you might see them. So closings, when it's all set up and everything's ready to go, most of the time it's pretty smooth. We've already approved settlement statements and made sure all the numbers match up. Most of the time We're just going there to be there with the client, see if there's any last minute questions. Occasionally, there's some last minute drama. Sometimes it's people being reasonable. Sometimes it's things that are out of our control. There's just crazy stuff that shows up. 2 weeks ago, I had someone that didn't want to close on the purchase because the seller, when they cleaned out the house, had left some large trash bags by the garage pedestrian door and had arranged for their neighbor to take the trash to the street the next morning on trash day. Apparently that wasn't sufficient, and they wouldn't close until I had someone go physically get the trash and not put it on the curb, but actually remove it. So thankfully, I've got this awesome guy who's like a hauling service, and he hustled right over there, and we took the trash off their hands so that they would close. I thought that was a little bit extreme, but you know, whatever I have to do to make problems go away. Hello? Hello?
Hey, are you doing an interview at 1?
Yes.
Are you interviewing agents?
No, it's like, you know, I've been doing those interviews with people when they're like, hey, how do I start selling $1 million homes? I'm letting people come in the office a couple times a week and just spend 45 minutes and ask me questions.
Okay.
So,
all right. I was just curious.
not adding
Other
to the
than
team. I will not do anything without letting you know.
Beforehand.
That's right.
I appreciate that.
That's
Thank
correct.
you.
So we're gonna go in and do this this interview. If you're out there watching and you're like, man, how does this happen? How do you do this business? How do you sell stuff? How do you get big clients? You know, it's not very far removed for me to think about trying to get started. And so I've just decided to start making myself available to people when they DM me or whatever, and they're like, hey, I want to sell $1 million property. How do you do that? I've just started letting them come into the office for 45 minutes and just visit, ask the questions they want to ask. And if they're literally trying to get started, then we talk about how to do that. If they're an agent and they're trying to figure the business out, let them ask those questions. I'm just trying to be available because I didn't feel like I had that. The first 6 months of my career, I was just kind of floundering, just trying to figure it out. I feel like if I had just sat down with someone that would legitimately tell me what to do and give me some insight on their business and their experience, I think I would have moved forward faster. They just wanted to brag about what they were doing, and that's not what this is about. So let's see what happens. Good to meet you.
Good to meet
Thanks.
you too as well.
Come on,
Darren.
Darren, have a seat, and we'll get going. So Darren, the way this works is you can ask me anything. Nothing's off limits, but we can start with just asking some questions of you. So you hit me up because you're interested in pursuing opportunities.
Yes, sir. Yes,
Tell me what that means.
Well, basically, the whole real estate works, man.
Mm-hmm.
I like the luxury homes. I actually helped somebody move recently in one of those luxury homes, man, and I was amazed, man. And to see somebody actually doing it on the internet, man, and having time to reach out to me is a blessing, man. I really appreciate that.
No, it's my pleasure. You know, it's all about engaging, right? And relationships are everything. And so I just try to take everybody that reaches out the same, and I try to engage. And hey, you never know who they're one person away from. You never know who's on the other side of the phone call. So I just try to pursue everything the same.
Man, I greatly appreciate you giving me the time today.
It's my pleasure.
So if I was going to pursue it, I love to go over it and see the details of it. I'm always on the outside looking in, so I never know how it works.
So here's how it works. To get licensed in the state of Tennessee, which is where we are, obviously, and it's similar in most states, you have to go through a licensing class, do your hours, then there's 2 tests. Pass the tests, you get licensed, you put your license with a broker. And then there's a post class that follows that as well. So you have to go through the licensing process in order to be able to sell.
Correct.
And so that would be step number 1, is you can do it online, you can do it with a class, but you've got to go through that process just to kind of get the opportunity. The interesting thing about the classes is they don't really go through how to do the business. It's just how to get licensed and how to get legal, how to not get sued, what the terminology means, what different types of agency are. There's a lot of things about the process of the class that it's just a good foundation. And then you get your license and you're like, okay, what do I do now? What's next? Because they don't tell you how to go do the business. So if you go to the class and you're expecting for the last segment to be, okay, this is how you get started, right, it's not gonna happen. And I don't know why they do it that way, other than they're so focused on the legal element, because they don't want you to get sued. They want you to know how to properly disclose your relationships and who you represent and that sort of thing. It's like that's more important in the class setting, because that's more important in terms of the actual license itself.
Wow.
Doing the business part, the selling, the engaging with clients, all that is kind of learned in the field, basically. You have to kind of make a commitment to get the license. So you have to have the legal end taken care of. Step number 2 is where I think a lot of people get into kind of a spiral, like I did. You know, my thought was, okay, I'm gonna get out there and I'm gonna find clients and somebody's gonna give me an opportunity. Sadly, a lot of people look at new agents like, why am I gonna trust you? Because you've never done anything. But at the same time, that's where you have to counter that by saying, look, I've got more time to give to you. I can be completely attentive to what you've got going on. So you're trying to sell the positives. My first deal though came because of a referral. That was after being there 6 months. What I recommend for a lot of people is, if you're gonna go get your license, go right into it cold, you really probably should sign on with a brokerage with a pretty intense training program. You'll be shadowing people, you'll be learning scripts, you'll be learning how to fill out purchase agreements, all those things that are really critical, that you spend a little bit of time on some of those elements in the class, but most of it is not really covered until you're doing your practical. And so I feel like if you'll get out there and find, and sometimes it's ideal to find somewhere that's local to you. You know, whatever part of town you live in, if you want to do business there, go sign on with them. If you want to try to do business in another part of town for some strategic reason, then maybe you want to put your license in, an office in that part of the city.
Okay, just like that.
It doesn't matter what industry that is.
Yes,
you
sir.
go get around the people that you want to be. Right? You go get around the deals that you want to do, and then just let it naturally continue to bring you opportunity. But you got to play the long game.
Yes, sir.
And that's meaningful to me. You got to go into it with the attitude of, okay, I'm not going to expect any more than I can try to earn opportunity-wise over the next couple of years. I'm just going to go into it and learn. You got to look at it like it's a master's program. Like this is my 2 years to figure this business out before I can have my own business. I think a lot of people flame out, and that's why they say if you can stick 3 years, you're going to stick. That's like the metric.
Yeah.
A lot of people burn out in the first year. They're just like, this is too much work, or I can't find business, or I'm going to go back to doing what I was doing before, or the market changes and it gets harder. It's like all that stuff, it washes people out.
Yeah.
So the perseverance element is so massive. The ability to say, you know what, I'm playing the long game, got a 5-year plan, I'm just going to hustle it out.
Sir, and to see him reach back at me, that was pretty amazing, man.
Dude, I'm just some guy, man. I'm just doing it. I'm not like some ethereal creature out there, floating around. It's like, but at the same time, see, why I reach back out, why I follow up,
right,
why I'm starting to do this on a regular basis is I know what it's like to be like, what is step 1, 2, and 3? Right. If I just know what the steps are, if somebody just tell me what to go do, right, then I'll try to go execute.
That'd be great.
And we'll talk more about what teams I think you might want to hit up, or get in their mentor program, because it's like if you want to do that follow up, and then that'll be a ride around, and we'll just see what we're doing.
That'd be cool.
And you just shadow me on whatever my day is that day, 100, whatever it is. Sometimes. So it's CMA Fest. It's crazy. So we're hiking past. This may be convenient though, because this may be where Bloss and I have dinner before we go to the CMA event. So we're talking about Darren that we met earlier today. The fact that he was willing to reach out. He hit me up at, just from an ad that I was running on Instagram, and he'd reached out to other people before and they hadn't hit him back. That says a lot about him. And I think that's the thing people have to do. They have to get outside themselves, outside their comfort zone, and just reach out. He reached out to somebody who didn't respond, and I actually happened to respond. and we had a really good visit. But we were sitting here talking about it. I think in the grand scheme of things, people are so quick to just respond to that first no. And I think you have to just push through. You know, in this game, what I'm doing, it's all about no. Everything is a no. You just keep pushing past the no's. I mean, I showed 2 properties today to a very good client that I will probably eventually sell something to, but they were both no's. I'm not gonna get distracted. Before we left, I thought of somebody else that is in California that may be moving here, may buy a second residence. We got them on the phone. It was a maybe, but you have to power through the no. And I think that's for everybody doing anything. You have to build up your resistance to power through the no. And I think probably Darren did that a little bit today, because he got a no, then he got a yes, then he got some information. Hopefully he feels armed to take the next step. You gotta fight through the no. Every no that you fight through, you're that much closer to the yes. And that's on sales, that's on everything. And so I'm rooting for you, Darren. Talk to you soon, man.